Welcome, everyone. My name is Rachel Bloom with the CSU Alumni Association, and I am so glad that you're here for our Farmers Market series. This is our first event in that series, Farmers Market 101. I hope that you can check out the other two upcoming events as well. We'll have recordings of this series available on our YouTube channel. I want to thank you all for joining us today. Like I mentioned, if you would want to put in the chat where you're tuning in from, just click all panelists and attendees. And feel free to include what vegetable or item you're the most excited about grabbing at your local farmers market this year. As a reminder, this is a webinar, so your camera is off and you're automatically muted. So please use the chat feature or the Q&A feature to communicate with us throughout the presentation. And if you want to use those features, Emily will have some points to answer questions. So definitely ask away as things come up. And if we want to move to the next slide, Emily. That's just my welcome slide one more time, and we'll move to the next one. So many of our attendees are CSU Alumni Association members. Thank you so much for your membership. It makes our programming and events like this possible. I will include more information about membership in the chat momentarily for you, but if you aren't a member yet, we hope you'll consider joining during Day of Giving this week, May 6th and 7th. During this 24-hour online giving event, CSU alumni, students, friends, faculty, and staff will come together to support student and alumni success, faculty research, and critical resources that will help encourage a brighter tomorrow. It's the perfect time to take your RAM Pride to the next level with a gift to the area that is most meaningful to you. So we hope you'll check it out. That's this week already, which is really hard to believe. We can go ahead and move to the next slide. That's our membership QR code as well. So if you want to take a quick picture of that, you can then go on our website and check out what membership means and our different options for membership. And we can move to the next slide as well. So CSU Extension Master Gardener Program established Grow and Give in 2020 as a modern victory garden project, which is on the next slide. And this was in response to the heightened level of food insecurity resulting from the COVID-19 pandemic. And so Emily, I'm sure can answer questions about this as well, but we definitely want to give a shout out to CSU Extension for this Grow and Give program, which continues to address food insecurity in Colorado by connecting backyard and community gardens to food donation sites across the state. And we have a little slide with that graphic on the next slide here. And that program provides resources to help with both the grow and give part of your harvest. That's okay, we'll send out the link so that you all have it. It must not have made it to this slide deck. And the program gives awesome resources to help you both grow and give your harvest to those in need. So Emily can be a great resource for you all. I will also add my chat and contact information into the chat if you have any trouble with technology. Additionally, the CSU Alumni Association has many virtual events coming up. Like I mentioned, there's 2 more events in this Farmers Market series. So I'll also provide the link to our website. We'll be sending out the recording of this webinar and some additional resources, so be on the lookout for that email in the next week. And then later on in the event, I'll be putting a survey link in the chat. So if you could please take a moment to fill that out, we'd greatly appreciate your feedback. So we can actually go to the next slide now. And it's my great pleasure to introduce our wonderful event speaker today, Emily. Emily works as the Farmers Market and Open Class Fair Coordinator, and I'm super excited to have her here to teach us the 101 basics of farmers markets today to get us ready for this new season ahead. Emily, thank you so much for being here. Take it away.
Hi, yeah, thank you for having me. As Rachel said, I am the Farmers Market and Open Class Fair Coordinator for CSU Extension in Larimer County. And today we're just going to talk a little bit about farmers markets. I'm going to provide a general overview of farmers markets in general, why they're important, what you might find at a farmers market. We are based in Fort Collins, Colorado, so most of the information will be relevant to Colorado, especially when it comes to the produce we're talking about. So a little disclaimer if you are elsewhere in the country. In the chat, I have a little interactive activity. We're going to create a word cloud. And so I'll post the link as well in the chat. But think about a farmer's market, think about your experience, and what is one word that describes a farmer's market? And maybe that's one word that describes a farmer's market to you. It could be your favorite produce. It could be who you like to go with to the farmer's market. So that's the QR code for it. And then there's the link. I'm posting it in the chat as well if you'd like to participate. And hopefully at the end, I'll be able to pull up our word cloud. All right. So we're going to cover the basic definition of a farmer's market, farmers markets around the country, and then hone in on the Larimer County Farmers Market. And I've been with the farmers market. This will be my 5th season. I am in partners in crime with Allison O'Connor, who is the horticulture agent for our extension office. She's presenting the next presentation, so definitely join in on that one. And she's also a champion of the Grow and Give program. So if you have any questions about that, I will probably be directing you to Allison for more details on getting involved. And of course, she also runs the Master Gardener program. So she is the go-to for any gardening questions you have. Feel free to ask any questions in the chat. I'll be keeping an eye on that. And let's begin. So basically, a farmer's market, it's a food market at which local farmers sell fruit and vegetables and often meat, cheese, and bakery products directly to consumers. So the biggest difference between a farmer's market and a grocery store is that direct connection between the person growing the food and the person consuming the food. The other keyword there is local. You don't always get local food if you shop at a grocery store, and depending on what kind of a farmer's market you go to, there might be a geographic location that limits. So you might say, for instance, at our market, we only have vendors from Colorado and some parts of Wyoming that are, probably within a few hours drive from here. So you know that when you come to our farmer's market, all the food you're getting is fresh, local, and it probably took 5 hours or less to get to our market. So local means different things depending on where you are. I tried to find some interesting market photos just to kind of represent some very different sorts of farmers markets. So on the left, we have a farmer's market in Hawaii. So you're seeing things like ginger, I see some star fruit, different root vegetables, citrus, a lot of fruit. In the middle there, that's Oregon, so a lot of berries. So you're seeing, oh gosh, blackberries, raspberries, strawberries. And then on the right, that is a farmer's market in Alaska. I believe that's a fall farmer's market. They have an abundance of gourds and greens. So no matter where you're visiting a market, you're going to find fresh produce. It just might look a little bit different. So if you came to the Fort Collins farmer's market or a market in Colorado, the fruit is going to be peaches. You're going to get some strawberries. You're not going to see things like bananas or oranges, for example. So different markets, the market that I coordinate is seasonal. We run May 22nd through October 30th this season. So that's generally a summer market. Some markets operate year round. Some operate weekly, some operate a few times a month. So no matter when you go, you're going to see fresh produce, but it's important to understand that you're not going to find the same thing every week necessarily. We get used to going to a grocery store and it's pretty consistent. You know what you're going to find as far as produce goes for the most part. But at a farmer's market, you're going to be shopping in season. So I've included on here, this is from, this is a Colorado produce calendar. So getting to know your local produce your local season, even if you're not a gardener or you're not up to date on your horticulture news, you can still be cognizant of what's in season around you. You're going to find the best produce if you're shopping in season. And so this is kind of a guideline of when you'll find things. Now, a lot of farmers are incorporating more greenhouse growing. So you're going to see some of these things, especially greens, tomatoes, a lot more year round. So if you were to go to a winter farmers market, a farmers market that's happening right now, especially in Colorado, that this is considered winter still, you're still going to see quite a bit of greens, plant starts already, things that can be grown in a greenhouse setting. So just knowing that you're not going to find the same things all year round. I know we had someone who gave a shout out for peaches, and peaches are one of those things that people show up sometimes in May and say, where are the peaches? Unfortunately, they're not ready yet. And as you see, they're going to be a little later in the season, July, August, thereabouts. This might also be impacted by any weather. So if you've been noticing in your state that there were some really rough, early spring, late winter storms, you might notice that impacting your local fruit as well. So for instance, this year, if you see peaches at a Colorado farmers market, get them while you can. It was a little bit rough for the peach trees this year, and there's not going to be that many. So this is a pop quiz. I'm not grading this, but this is just for you to test your knowledge here. Which of these items do you think would be considered local at a Colorado farmers market? And of course, those of you who are in Colorado have the benefit. Give you a minute to think about it. All right, so dairy products like cheese, milk, yogurt, those are all fair game at a Colorado farmers market. You'll definitely find those. You will find different types of melons, probably some melons maybe that you haven't even heard of. And for sure carrots, right? You can pretty much find a carrot anywhere. You won't be finding as many citrus or tropical items unless they're sourcing them from outside of the state. And you certainly won't find seafood that you'd consider local. If you do find seafood that is claimed to be local, just I would double check on that. Unless it's a Rocky Mountain oyster, you're not going to be finding anything like clams, mussels, oysters, that sort of thing. Right. So when is the best time to visit a farmer's market? We're often asked this question. When is the best time to go? Well, of course, if you ask me, I'm going to tell you, anytime is the best time to go. No matter when you go, you're going to find something cool. So if you come earlier, for instance, in our season, like I said, May 22nd is when we start. Sometimes it can be a little rainy. Sometimes there might be some snow on the ground, but you're going to find things like greens. You're going to find plant starts. So if you want to grow your own garden, we've got plant starts for you. You're going to find baked products, meat, eggs, milk, ready to eat items like breakfast burritos, coffee, kombucha, as well as non-food items. You'll see craft items, jewelry, clothing, and other art as well. So there's always something that you can find at the market. As you get later in the season, you're going to see more flowers coming in, maybe June, July, depending on the weather. You're going to see the fruit that we talked about coming in, corn, peppers. We have a chili pepper roaster on site that comes in, so you'll smell that throughout the market. And then as it gets later in the season, you will see more root vegetables coming back out again and pumpkins. So just my little insider tip, if you are pumpkin crazy like I am, a farmer's market is a great place to stock up on pumpkins, because they'll usually give you a really good deal. If they see that gleam in your eye that you are ready for for Halloween, they will cut you a deal, and as many pumpkins as you can carry out, they're gonna hook you up. So farmers markets, I say that, this isn't really a hot button issue. Farmers markets, this is kind of just an easy breezy talk, but I do want to talk about and address some of the biggest, the most poignant topics, I think, are that farmers markets often get maybe a little bit of a misidentified as events that are for a certain type of people or for a certain income or a certain area. And farmers markets are for everybody. And farmers markets serve a very important role in communities, especially when it comes to food insecurity, supporting local ag. So I kind of want to highlight some of those areas of why farmers markets are important. And wherever you're at, whenever you go to your farmers market, kind of think about that when you're going there. It's not just for shopping. There's a very important role that's serving in your community. So farmers markets promote sustainability, and that's sustainability for the environment, that's sustainability for your community. And especially when we talk about the fact that this farmers market, the Larimer County Farmers Market, and I'll talk a little bit more about our history in a few slides, we are connected with CSU Extension. And so it is important to kind of highlight the environmental impact that farmers have and that agriculture has on where you are living. So I just have a few facts up here that I thought were pretty good examples of just kind of the breadth of the impact of farmers markets. So locally or regionally sourced produce travels about 27 times less distance than conventionally sourced produce. That makes sense given what we talked about, that most farmers markets are limiting who's coming to their market so that it's as local as possible. 81% of farmers incorporate cover crops, reduce tillage, on-site composting, and other soil health practices into their operations. And if you're ever at a farmer's market and you're curious about what your favorite vendors are doing, the great thing is you can ask them. So you can ask your vendor if they're certified organic, or even if they're not certified organic, you should ask them, because usually the certified organic, it's kind of a formality for some of them. They're already incorporating a lot of the best practices associated with being sustainable, with not using toxic or anything that could be not beneficial to the land that they're using. And then, as I mentioned, you can talk to your farmers, and 4 out of farmers discuss farming practices with customers and provide information about farming impacts on the environment. So when you go to a farmer's market, you can shop and you can also learn. And as CSU alum, I know you guys like to study, and you can continue your studies on your morning shopping trips. So farmers markets also preserve rural livelihoods and stimulate local economies. And if that was, something overlooked in past years, it definitely came to the forefront of people's minds last year when we entered into the COVID-19 pandemic. It impacted local economies and it impacted local farmers a lot. And while farming is often a tenuous industry, to say the least, we saw a huge insurgence of interest in local produce. Our farmers market in particular, and others that I've talked to around the state, starting as soon as the pandemic started last year in 2020, I got so many messages from people asking, how can they get local food? They, meat was short in grocery stores. They wanted to get meat. They wanted to know where their food was coming from. They wanted to know who touched their food, and it was very interesting because more than ever, we were able to provide that connection of saying, here's a list of farmers that are selling those products that you are interested in. Get in contact with them. They have CSAs available. They'll be at our market. And some vendors this last year had some of their best sales days yet. There was definitely a higher interest in local food. So from an economic standpoint, our local growers are creating 13 full-time operator jobs per $1 million in revenue. Those that don't sell locally are creating 3. So more jobs and keeping those jobs local as well. And then our small and mid-sized farmers who sell at the farmers markets have a 10% greater chance of staying in business. And that's a big deal. As you might have heard, or you can probably guess, is that family businesses don't often continue on in the family now, with more commercial farming and big scale farming taking precedence in stores. And then 50% of farmers selling at farmers market derive at least half of their revenue from farmers market sales. And that's definitely relevant for our market in particular as well. Farmers find that their biggest sales come from that 4-hour block on a Saturday morning. So it is a big deal to be able to get your face in front of your customers in that direct manner. All right, so then the last thing I'll touch on is just that farmers market promote vibrant and healthy communities. So at our market and at a lot of markets in Colorado and beyond, many accept SNAP. So SNAP is the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, formerly known as food stamps. So SNAP, you get a EBD card with your benefits on there. You can use them at any farmers market that can accept it. And our market accepts it. So we have a lot of people who are part of the program that can come to the farmers market. And we love it because it gives access to more people. And these customers love it because they keep their dollars local. They like being able to support their local vendors, plus fresh quality food. Who can say no to that? So the number of farmers markets accepting SNAP has gone up. You can see that from my little stats there. Our market in particular, last year, we saw that our numbers of SNAP customers almost doubled. Now you can point that to a few different factors, including the fact that with the pandemic, it did have more people using SNAP. And we were very grateful that they were able to find out that they could use it at our market, because that's not something you often think about. As I mentioned, sometimes the markets get pigeonholed. You might think it's, for more affluent communities, that it doesn't have something there for people of lower incomes, but they do. And we're doing our best to get the word out, because we know that there's a little bit of a stigma attached with farmers markets. There's an assumption that everything's more expensive. There's an assumption that it's not welcoming. There's assumption that it's usually homogenous in the people groups that are there. And we're doing our best to make sure that our market at least is inviting, and that we are doing our best to promote vibrant and healthy communities. And so, like I said, last year, it was really kind of a turning point for a lot of farmers markets, that the state health department deemed farmers markets essential businesses. So like a grocery store, farmers markets were able to operate even through a pandemic. So it kind of differentiated them from a special event. It's not just a fun thing, it's essential to your community. So I'm going to dial into the Larimer County Farmers Market. That's where I operate. And give you a little bit of a history. Like I said, this is my 5th season, so I'm not considered an old timer, but I can give you a little bit of an overview, which I find it very interesting. If you are in, Fort Collins, or if, you went to school here, if you were on campus here at CSU, you can at least visualize some of the location. We are located currently at 200 West Oak Street in Old Town at the Larimer County Courthouse. But that's not where the market started. I love these photos. They're black and white. They're from the 80s though, so I don't want to make it sound like these photos go back. And you can definitely tell by the style of clothing that this is maybe late 70s, early 80s. So the roots of this particular market, 1975, a group of backyard gardeners in Fort Collins decided to sell their excess produce to the community. Now, the Master Gardener program is a program of CSU Extension. The Master Gardener program in general started a couple years prior to this. So by 1975, the Master Gardener program came to Colorado, and a lot of those backyard gardeners who were selling their produce would become Master Gardeners. And so this tie between CSU Extension and the farmers market was pretty much forged at the very beginning. Now, over the years, the market has evolved. The Master Gardeners continue to operate the market. So when you come and visit us on Saturday mornings, you will see Master Gardeners greeting you at the entrance. They are helping customers get their SNAP coupons out. They are, securing perimeters, putting up tents, and of course, answering your gardening questions. Now, the market's also moved around quite a bit. My counterpart, Allison O'Connor, has seen much more of that. It's been, I don't know, a decade, Allison, something like that. I know she's probably on listening. So it's moved around a lot. As most of you know, space is kind of at a premium in Old Town. So the market's been in various locations, including behind where Tony's is now, over in the parking lot on Remington, between Oak and Olive. When there's been construction, it's had to move into the streets. Basically, it's always been in Old Town though. So it's always had this strong tie with being in the heart of the community. To where it is today. So our current location is in the parking lot at 200 West Oak Street. So if you come down and visit us, you can visit the other stores and restaurants in Old Town, and we're conveniently located right off of the Max. You can drive, you can bike, you can walk. Today, the market has about an average of 70 vendors per Saturday. And this season we have a total of about 100 vendors. Those are the numbers we've had for the last couple years. This year, when you come to the market, it's going to look like a lot more vendors though. We are still following those COVID safety protocols. So if you visited us last summer, you know the drill. You wear a mask, you distance yourself from people, and you try and keep your outing more of a shopping trip than a social time. But we love the market. It's a vibrant place. The market used to be from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. and we pushed it back. We need our sleep. So now we're at 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. So what makes this market different? The market is a little bit unique, especially among the other markets in Colorado. So as far as we know, we are currently, and have probably for a little while, been the only market in Colorado run by CSU Extension. Other markets have different hierarchies and structures, business structures. You might have a market that's run by a private entity. It might run as a nonprofit. It might be a co-op. So you might have several vendors who own the market. This is the only one run by CSU Extension here in Colorado. So you have myself, who is a program coordinator with Larimer County, and then Allison, who is an extension agent with CSU. And together there's this lovely symbiosis between Larimer County and CSU. And we're operated by the master gardeners. So like I said, a lot of volunteers make this market happen. That is probably the biggest benefit and resource that we have. It takes a lot of work to run a market, a lot of people, and especially last year, we could not continue to have a safe and successful market without our volunteers. And it is not all markets have that built-in structure and have that built-in help. In addition, we are also home to 2 programs that we created, the Market Ambassador Program and the Market Days for Older Adults, which I will talk about. But because we are a program of CSU Extension, it's not enough for us to just run a market. We need to be connecting to the community. And so we are committed to being accessible to more people and to being inclusive. So I'll talk a little bit more about those programs. And what you'll find today is much what you would have found in the early beginnings, except expanded. So you will find fruits, vegetables, plants, animal products, baked products, beverages, soap, jewelry, you name it, you'll probably find it at the farmers market. We'll talk a little bit more. I think, one of the most exciting things, of course, is what's going to be trending in 2021. So I'll talk a little bit more about that. But the market, you'll find more than just things. You're going to find people. You'll find community. In the past, we have had musicians in a nonprofit tent. So a nonprofit group, each week we'd have a local group that we would highlight, and they would have an opportunity to come to the market and kind of, tell people about their organization and the good they're doing in the community. Unfortunately, we won't be able to have musicians or many special events this year. It's just a matter of spacing. If COVID regulations reduce, we might be able to bring some of those items back. But in the past, as you can see from the photos, we've had lots of fun special events and activities. We are going to have story time. So if you are local and you have little ones, the best way to kind of keep an eye on the story times is either on our website, larimercountyfm.org. We have an event calendar, and then also on our Facebook, Larimer County FM. We are having a regular story time that will be happening. We will be partnering with the Gardens on Spring Creek. So they're going to bring Read and Seed to the market. The other special event that I will bring up, it's still in the works. So this is kind of like you guys are getting the first exclusive on it, is that we have been scheming to have an Olympic event. And this year we're going to try and launch the Chicken Olympics at the market. So local chicken athletes, of which you probably didn't even know existed, will be competing in various events at a date to be determined. So keep an eye out for that exciting event. The first instance at the Larimer County Farmers Market for sure. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about a couple of the programs that I mentioned, because it really highlights the connection that this market in particular has to Extension. So an Extension is the community outreach portion, the arm of CSU. So CSU has all this great research at its disposal, and Extension helps get that research to the community in a practical manner. And part of Extension's motivation is to be able to do that in a way that reaches people where they're at. You know, oftentimes, you know, if you're providing a service, people, you know, you're kind of inviting them to come to you. We're trying to get things out more into the community, make things more accessible, make things more inclusive, as I've mentioned. So really, it's creating diversity in programming. And nothing exemplifies this more for the farmers market than two of our newest programs. So Market Days is in its third year. This is its third year. And it started from Allison and myself seeing a need in the community for fresh produce for older adults. So adults ages 55 plus, many of whom fall in what's known as the SNAP gap. So I mentioned that SNAP, that's the government assistance program, and it has very specific requirements of your, you know, income, how many people in your household in order to qualify for these food benefits. In theory, that's great, but as we know, it's not one size fits all for people's situations. So there might be a reason why you don't qualify for SNAP, or you qualify for such a little amount that it's often too much. Maybe it's just doesn't seem worth it to someone to hold a SNAP benefit. So we wanted to meet the needs of people who might be falling in the SNAP gap, who were older adults in our community. A lot of other states have an assistance program that is a farmers market, you know, seniors program, but Colorado does not. So this is kind of us seeing a need and trying to come up with a program that would be very local and very sustainable for our market. So that is where Market Days for older adults comes in. We are partners in crime with Senior Access Points, another program out of the Extension office. So it's very much a collaboration and really doing what we do best in Extension, collaborating and providing resources. So what the program is basically we partner with community organizations that serve older adults. These organizations identify people who would most benefit from a bag of fresh produce. And then we provide bags of fresh produce for those individuals. So in 2020, we distributed 1,161 bags. The first year we did a voucher system where vouchers were provided to older adults. They came to the market, they picked out their produce. Last year we had to revise that model because it was not safe to encourage a vulnerable population to come to a big public outing. So instead, as you see in the picture there on the bottom, the produce was taken to them. So we had assistance with volunteers. They would drive the produce to these community hubs, and then people would get fresh produce delivered right to their door. So last year, we spent $25,390 on local produce. So the program not only benefits those who are receiving the produce, but it benefits the local farmers. Anytime that you can combine providing a service to people and also supporting your local community, it's a match made in heaven. So farmers love the program because, you know, they like helping the community. This is an easy way for them to help the community. And then they still receive money for their product. And then of course, a lot of the farmers, because they appreciate being able to help the community, they throw in, you know, a little extra, cut us a deal, because they're more than willing to help out in programs like this. So 73 volunteers provided 413 volunteer hours. And again, this program could not run without the dedicated volunteers who were there shopping for produce, bagging produce, and delivering produce each week. So we do have a campaign. So if you are more interested in this program, please reach out. I'll have contact information at the end. And you can also provide a bag of produce. So $15 provides a bag of produce to someone who could really use it, someone who might not have access to fresh, nutritious food in their community. So please contact me for more information, or if you're kind of curious about that. Like I said, this is just the third year. So the program's in its infancy, and it really has a lot of potential to partner with other organizations or other groups that are doing similar work. This will be the second year for the Market Ambassador program. So the Market Ambassador program was a program that started when the Northern Colorado Food Shed Project here in Fort Collins connected with us and asked about how we're reaching different diverse communities. And, we thought about it, and we thought, we don't have a specific way of doing that. Thus, the Market Ambassador program was created. So the idea is that we have a market ambassador, so someone who we hire on, and they are at the market and they are out in the community, and they are someone who is connecting with the community and telling them about the market and different things that we offer that are beneficial to their community. So right now we're focusing on the Latinx community, a very, very vibrant and growing population in Northern Colorado that is not necessarily connected to the market in a big way. So we have up in the top photo there, that is Laura on the left. She is our market ambassador. She has done wonderful work in the community. She is a community organizer, has worked for justice programming in Fort Collins. So she is the perfect person to connect with the Latinx community. And then on the right is Lisa Auer. She is an extension employee. She is our FLTI coordinator, Family Leadership Training Institute coordinator, and she has a strong passion for creating inclusive and diverse programming through CSU. So this program really just started last year, and a lot of the program is focused on finding ways that we as a market can be more inclusive. And some of it is simple things like, having specific materials translated. So right now we're working on translating our market materials into Spanish so that it's not intimidating. It's not hard to get information when you come to the market. Another thing that we're focusing on is really taking a step back, and like this Farmers Market 101 class, breaking down what is a farmer's market, because we take for granted that a farmer's market is something that everybody knows what it is, when it's not necessarily something that is consistent across every culture, wherever you grew up. Farmer's market might mean something different, and we want to make it very clear what we are, maybe even what we're not, but how you're going to find things when you come to the market. And especially being able to provide information for SNAP and another program called Double Up, which is an awesome program that's provided to us from Nourish Colorado that matches your SNAP dollars up to $20 in fresh produce. So if you spend $20 in SNAP, you get $20 free in fresh produce. So really a way of increasing nutrition across low-income populations. That's information that is really, there's a strong need to translate it, because it can be a little hard to explain the program in general. And so if there's a language barrier, it's really going to be difficult for people to be connected to the program that they have access to, that they really should be able to use. And just navigating the market in general. So we are doing our best with the Market Ambassador program. This year, we're expanding that. We're looking at what sort of, in the future, when we can have entertainment, what sort of entertainment would be appealing to the Latinx community, are making sure that our farmers market application is translated so that language barrier does not keep vendors from applying as well. So on to the trending items, because I know that you have your list out, you're ready to know what's at the farmers market. So trending in 2021, bakery items. And you might think, well, aren't there always cookies and pies? Yes, there are. But this year, there are more than ever. Because while everyone was at home doing their pandemic baking, some people were taking that a step further, and they researched and figured out that with the Cottage Food Act, you can make non-potentially hazardous items at home and sell them at a farmer's market. So you will see some of the most beautiful pies I've ever seen on Instagram. You will see different types of biscuits and breads. And if you have any sensitivity to gluten, you'll have gluten bake mixes and any sort of baked product you can imagine. So if you are interested in carbs, please stop by the market. We'll have plenty for you. Also trending in 2021, microgreens. So microgreens are baby little sprouts, and they come in different flavors, if you will. So think of, kale, pea, arugula. They're really awesome to, add to your sandwiches, to sprinkle on your salad. And we have at least 2 or 3 vendors selling microgreens. They're very popular. So you're going to find many different varieties at the market. So that is the second thing that's trending in 2021. And the final thing, specialty produce. So things that you might not necessarily find in a grocery store just because maybe they're not as commercially viable, maybe they don't sell as well, maybe they're harder to transport. But things like garlic scapes, salad turnips were really big last year, lemon cucumber, different sizes of garlic, they had itty bitty baby garlic, and so much more. You're going to see different kinds of melons. You're going to see different kinds of, squash. When you come to the market, just keep your eyes peeled. I guarantee, you're not going to be disappointed if you take a chance on a on a different kind of squash. Take a chance, try something new. It's also really fun to hear the farmers talk about their, they want to talk about their produce. This is what they do. So if you see something you have no idea what it is, you can ask your farmer, and chances are they can tell you 5 different ways to cook it that you wouldn't have thought of yourself. So definitely get ready to experiment. You're going to see the farmers bringing out their best and brightest ideas when it comes to produce this season. So we're winding down here, and I just want this quote to kind of ruminate with you is, what makes the farmers market such a special place is that you're actually creating community around food. Eating, cooking, oftentimes these are activities that are just so ingrained in us as social creatures. So it makes a lot of sense that the farmers market is such a big hub and such an important place in your community. So I hope to see you guys this summer. Allison and I will be at the Extension information booth. The market is open 24 weeks, rain or shine. So if you see it raining, don't be deterred. Grab your shopping bag. We'll be there. So Saturdays, May 22nd through October 30th, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. at 200 West Oak Street. And if you want to get in touch with us, the best way to reach us is at our email address, which is larimercountyfm@gmail.com. You can also check out our website, larimercountyfm.org, and we have Facebook and Instagram. I'll leave this page up. The next page I have is just citations if you liked those stats on farmers markets. And so I want to, let's see, we have a few minutes for questions. So if you have any questions about the farmers market, please go ahead and type them in the chat.
I am certainly very excited about all those baked goods. I'm like, wow, it's definitely lunchtime because I want a pie for lunch. Really cool learning about the history of the market and all the different programs you all have. I'm definitely excited to check it out as well. Definitely let us know if you have questions for Emily. We'll hang out here for a minute. And in case you have to hop off a little early, I'm going to put our survey link in the chat. If you loved this event, definitely let us know. If you need help getting connected with Emily, let me know as well. And then we also always ask for event and topic suggestions too. But do you have any questions about the farmers market, or if you want to just share what you're excited about for it this year, let us know. What's your favorite thing to purchase there, Emily? Is that like the worst question you can get?
No, because I mean, it's just how long do you have, you know? So, you know, because I work there, I'm usually there at around 6:30. So, you know, I got to get breakfast. So I got to get a breakfast burrito or a kolache. They've got breakfast, you know, kolaches, which are like little buns with yummy goodies in there. And I've got to get coffee as well. There's 3 coffee vendors. You know, so I got to take turns and give everyone some love. And then usually, because I'm the first one there, it's time to hit up the lines for whatever is going to be the biggest line. So when it's peach season, I'm right there getting my peaches. So, you know, it's an all day grazing. Basically, the market tent, the table is filled with snacks to share. Everyone just goes and buys goodies. And we're eating all day long at the market.
Sounds like my ideal Saturday.
Yeah, you had to bring the antacids because sometimes it's, you know, you're there for a while, so you just go a little overboard.
Amazing. It looks like Robin's wondering if we're going to have future events, if people are interested in starting their own farmers market. Robin, I would say next week's might be a little more helpful for this topic. We're going to talk about with Allison, who Emily mentioned, just a little more about farmers markets in general. However, we don't really have a specific event planned for starting your own farmers market. Emily, do you have any words of advice on that front?
Yeah, Robin, I would suggest checking out the Colorado Farmers Market Association, and let me just make sure I've got their correct link. They are a great resource, and they have a whole page on, like, if you're interested in starting a farmers market, this is kind of something to think about. And even if you're not in Colorado, it would have some helpful information of, you know, like what you need to think about to get started. Okay, because they got a new website link. Here we go. I'm putting in the chat for you, Robin.
Definitely a great question. You'll have to let us know if you start one, Robin. Oh, I think that just went to just you and me, Emily.
Oh, it said all panelists. Oh, and attendees.
Thanks so much for your question. If anyone else has a question, we'll hang out for one more minute here. Highly recommend keeping up with them on social media. It's definitely helpful to know vendors and different fun things that are happening each Saturday. I'm excited for story time personally as well. Sounds like fun. And that chicken Olympics, I mean, that really got me pretty excited, Emily. I'm not going to lie to you.
Yeah, we pride ourselves on trying new things. And last year it was kind of disappointing. We didn't get to try anything. We've had zucchini car races in the past where we stuck some wheels on zucchinis or whatever else you can stick wheels on and put them down a racetrack. And so, we're always trying to come up with new interesting things to bring the kids into the market. So we're going to try Chicken Olympics this year.
I love that. Well, stay tuned, everyone, for Chicken Olympics. And Emily, do you have any parting words for everybody today?
Just to keep shopping local. You guys really made a huge impact on your local agriculture last year, especially during a pandemic. So keep up the good work and, go Rams.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your time and expertise. Really much appreciated. And everyone, thanks for joining. Stay safe, stay stalwart, go Rams. Take care, everybody.